You're listening to Criticaleye's Inspiring Leaders podcast. Criticaleye is a global membership community with over 2 decades of experience supporting senior executives in their roles. We work with board-level executives, giving them opportunities to build their knowledge, skills, and access independent reference points outside of their immediate networks. Whether you're stepping up into a more senior role or aspiring to do so, looking to hone high-level stakeholder relationships, drive operational performance, build your own personal resilience as a leader, or have longer-term career goals such as moving into a plural career, Criticaleye's approach supports a range of leadership challenges and ambitions.
Hello and welcome to the Criticaleye's Inspiring Leaders podcast. In this series, we speak to executives and non-executives about what's really going on across the leadership agenda and boardrooms today, getting insights into the key issues around strategy, stakeholder management and leadership capabilities. My name is Neha Patel, Account Manager and CFO Lead at Criticaleye, and I'll be your host today. I'm delighted to be joined by Helen Miles, Group CFO of FTSE 100 Severn Trent and Non-Executive Director at Breeden Group. So welcome, Helen.
Hello.
There's quite a few things to cover today, and I think a good place to start is I'd love to learn more about what initially interested you in becoming a Group CFO.
Well, thank you for having me today. It's lovely to have the opportunity to chat. So I would say I don't think I ever thought that I would reach the heady heights of a CFO. And if you go back to my background, I grew up in Birmingham, and I haven't really taken a traditional path, I would say. I went to a big comprehensive in Birmingham, and then I did my A-levels, but I didn't go to university. And I chose to go straight into the working environment. And I was lucky enough, I actually went to work for a bank, and I was lucky enough to work for somebody who saw that I was really capable at numbers type stuff. I'd done maths at A-level, and so I'd always been good at maths. But he saw that I had a capability there, and he encouraged me to do my accountancy exams. So I thought, oh yeah, I'll have a go at that. So I started my accountancy exams, and that was really the start, I guess, of where I am today. So it was a long time ago, actually. And it was so funny. Last week we were doing some work. We do loads at Severn Trent on our communities and supporting young people. And I was in a presentation last week from our comms team, and they were talking about some of the work they're doing to get young people from backgrounds that might not have the opportunities, the same opportunities as others, and we're working with these schools. And one of the schools they showed me was my old school. And it was like, oh no, my God, that's crazy. It made me feel like, that was light years away. And it really made me reflect on how far I've come since my school days, and really made me even more driven to support all of the great work that Severn Trent are doing around helping young people today. So yeah, it was a real reminder.
Sounds like a great trip down memory lane as well. And I understand that you transitioned from the Capital and Commercial Services Director to Group CFO. How did you find this transition, and what were some of the main challenges that you encountered along the way?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I absolutely loved the transition. So I am obviously a finance person by background, but I'd spent probably six or 7 years maybe doing a non-finance role. And when I've been in Severn Trent for a decade, almost the day actually, and when I joined Severn Trent, I joined in a non-finance role, and that role expanded over time. And I was responsible for a couple of things. One was all the capital investment that we make in our assets, which is really, really important because it makes us gives us good performance. But I was also responsible for the non-regulated businesses, which are businesses that sit outside the water company, and a fabulous experience. Learned loads. Worked with a bunch of great people who were doing brilliant things. But when I moved back into finance, I did feel like I was coming home. I did feel like I always knew I wanted to go back into finance, and so I did feel like I was coming home. And I think when I reflect on it, the culture at Severn Trent means that it's a very supportive culture, and we do give people the opportunity to do things that may not be where their experience lies, and we really do put a lot into allowing our people to develop, and we're a very values driven culture as well. And if you look at our company, you know, you look at the senior management level, my peers, and the level below that, and the level below that, you know, we promote a huge amount internally. So this was culturally, me getting this role was culturally consistent with all of that. So it was a great opportunity. And the finance team were brilliant in helping me in the areas that I wasn't so experienced in. I think it's really hard for any CFO to have ticked all of the boxes that you have to cover as a CFO. And so I was incredibly grateful for the great support I got from my peers, but also the finance team in educating me, being patient with me when I asked lots and lots of questions, and really making sure that I settled smoothly and that it didn't impact anything that we were trying to do. And I think the last thing is I love the company. I live in the Midlands. I'm a Brummie, and it's just such a fantastic opportunity to work in this position with a company that I love.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey with us, Helen, and you can really hear the passion coming through as well. It's really interesting to hear how you navigated such a significant transition, and I wanted to build on that a little bit further, actually. So what we're seeing in the community is that the role of the CFO is becoming all-encompassing and is expanding beyond just the finance function. From your perspective, what are you seeing as the primary responsibilities of the Group CFO, and do you think your views changed with experience?
Yeah, so it is a great question, and it's interesting that you're seeing that, because it's definitely something that I feel, and I think that the CFO role is crucial in enabling the company to do the things that a company needs to do. And in our sector, we have such an important and broad set of responsibilities that the CFO has got to think about those in totality. We can't just be focused on finance. And if I think about our company, you know, we're a 24/7 business, so we're always on. And it's not always easy. We are subject to the weather, whether it's really hot and people need lots of water, or whether it's really wet, and that enters our sewage system. So we love to talk about the weather, but we are a 24/7 business, and we have a huge amount of responsibility, and that's the way we run the company. And if you think about what we do, we impact the environment, and we take that extremely seriously. And the Environment Agency, they rate companies like ours every year, and we have been the top rating with the Environment Agency for the last 5 years. And I'm pleased to say we're also on track for a 6th year. And I see my role as making sure that we have everything we need from a finance perspective and a risk management perspective and a cultural perspective to enable us to do that. So that's how broad the role is. And if I also think about, you know, we're a natural monopoly, and our mission is to be so much more than a water company, and I think we have a real responsibility to do that. And last week, we launched an initiative the Midlands Alliance, and we as a company are spearheading that. And what that's trying to do is to give young people the opportunity for apprenticeships, and we're working with other companies and we're leading it along with a charity called Regenerate, to give people opportunities in different sectors. And those are the types of things that we see as a responsible company that we should be doing, and I see my role as very much facilitating that. And if you take that further, we have a societal strategy to help 100,000 people in a decade, and to impact them, and we'll do that through different means, partly through apprenticeships, partly through making sure that we recruit people from different backgrounds. And I see my role as pivotal to making sure that as a company we can do that. If I link it back to finance, when I've only been in the role a couple of months, and we raised £1 billion worth of equity from our investors, who were incredibly supportive of everything that we're trying to do, which is a fabulous position to be in. And part of the reason we did that was so that we can invest in not only our assets and doing great things for customers, but also helping people in the communities that we serve. And this year alone, we're going to be spending nearly half of that money to improve the environment and go really fast at some of the challenges we're facing. So that sort of brings it all together, really. That's how I see my role, facilitating all of that brilliant stuff.
Thanks, Helen, and congratulations on being the top rated company. Sounds like a really fantastic achievement for yourself and at Severn Trent. And it sounds like you guys have got some really great initiatives going on in providing opportunities for the local community. I think that feeds in quite nicely with the next question that I'd love to ask you. So as the role of the CFO continues to evolve, the ability to lead and inspire a high performing team has become even more important. Helen, you're passionate about developing talent. How do you attract and retain top talent in such a competitive environment?
Yeah, I think this is such a key question for all leaders in any sphere. And Severn Trent, we have, as I said earlier, we're very values-based culture. And when I meet people who want to come and work for us, that's really important to them. People talk about wanting to work for a company that has a purpose, that has values, that does the right thing. Well, that's us. That is Severn Trent through and through and through. About 5 years ago, maybe a bit longer, we invested in an academy. So we have our own academy in Coventry, where we're based, and this academy is to train our own people, but we often have people who come and hold events there, or we do community programs there, and it just shows the investment that we're putting in to enable people to develop and reach their potential. That's what it's all about. And I think the other thing that's unique about Severn Trent, and there's so many examples of this across the business, in fact I'm an example, is people doing different things, changing their career. So being able to do things that might not have been on their plan, it might not have been something they've ever thought about, but we're able to say to people, you have a real talent for this. And this capability would be really great in this type of role. And those types of things they give people a huge amount of opportunity to take a bit of risk in their own career and really try things that they might not have otherwise done. And I think it's one of the reasons that we have such high engagement. So in our company, we have really high engagement, but it's not just in a few areas. It's consistent across all of our leadership. So all of our senior managers have really high engagement, and it just seems to continue to grow. And it is inspiring. But I think part of it is that we, as an organisation, we care really deeply about making sure people are engaged. We prioritise it. So we have brilliant communication internally, so people know exactly what our priorities are, where we're heading. And a lot of the people who work in our company, they're actually customers like me. I'm a customer of Severn Trent. That most people are customers. Most of our supply chain are also customers of us. So we have this huge population of people who have a real interest in making sure we're doing the right thing as a company. From my perspective, bringing it closer to home, when I just love, one of the joys of being in a senior management position, I think, is spotting people who've got great potential and supporting them and investing them in making sure that they achieve that potential to the extent that they want to. Not everybody wants to continue on that path, but for those who do, I absolutely want to make sure that they can, because I know 100%, if I had not had that, if I had not had the support, the investment, if I hadn't worked for amazing people, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today. And so we have a huge responsibility to make sure that we continue doing that. And I see that as a critical part of my role, and not just in finance either. Across the business, we obviously work with everybody across the business in finance. So I like to make sure that I'm doing that for everybody, not just for my own team.
Sounds really interesting. Thank you so much, Helen. I'd love to transition back to your journey slightly. What pivotal moment shaped your journey as a female CFO?
Well, that's a really good question. And it's a really hard one to sum up in an answer on a podcast, because I don't think there's one moment that you can point to, but I do think that that there are probably a few things that I could call out. So let me talk through what I think. So I think number one is working for people who really care as much about your development as you do. I think that's so important. And I always say to people who I mentor now, when you go for a job interview, wherever it is, whether it's in your current company or a different company, you're choosing who you work for as much as they're choosing you. And I think that's so important, because through my career, I've worked for brilliant people who really have cared about my development, and I've also worked for people who, not so much. And I just think that has been the thing that's made the difference for me, is when I've worked for those people who are super talented, super capable, and have really cared about me achieving my potential. If I hadn't had that, I wouldn't be here today. And that's so important. If there was one thing, that's it. I think the other thing is, you've got to take responsibility for your own development. Nobody's going to develop you. You have to develop yourself. People can help you and support you and give you the opportunities, but you have got to create time to really invest in the things that you see as important for your development, and be really honest about what you're good at and what you're not good at. I think you've got to take some risks. I took a risk when I took the non-finance role in Severn Trent. That was a big, scary move for me, moving out of finance, which had been my home for so long. But I think you have got to take some risks, and you've got to, obviously sensible risks and informed risks, but you have got to take risks. Things aren't just going to land in your lap. I think you have to make good decisions. So I think that links to taking risks, in that my belief is that successful people make good decisions, 95% of the time. So you've got to make good decisions. You've got to have a good decision-making rationale, whether that's about your career, whether that's something to do with your job. You've got to have that. And I think my view is that getting to a CFO role, or any very senior role, I think it's more to do with your capability than experience. When I interview people, I always ask them, what are you going to bring to my organisation? And they often start talking about their experience. Well, I've worked here and I've got this experience or that experience. That's not what I'm interested in. What I'm really interested in is, what are the personal capabilities that you are going to bring to my organisation that I can that I can use and will add value to my team and the wider business. And I think that's a really important differentiation. Yes, experience is important. Obviously, you've got to be technically capable, but you've got to have the right capability as well to get into those senior leadership positions. You've got to have a good leadership style. You've got to be able to coach and mentor people, etc., etc. So that's the other thing I would say.
Thanks, Helen. And I know you've touched upon it a moment ago and mentioned that leaders take accountability for their own development. They should take risks, but also make good decisions. What one piece of advice would you give to other women aspiring to take on those C-suite positions, particularly within the FTSE 100?
I think I would say all of those things that I've just said. I think I would say that, but I would say have the self-belief that you deserve it. I think women particularly, I think, can be very self-critical and cannot believe they've got the capability. And I've been fortunate to work with people who've told me that I can do this and I can be capable, even at times where I've not necessarily felt that inside. And I think for women, you've got to do you've got to work for the right people, put the hard work into development, choose the right company, take a few risks, make those good decisions. All of that stuff I think is so vitally important. But I think that self-belief is crucial, and know how good you are. And someone once said to me, act it till you feel it. And sometimes, how you feel inside isn't necessarily consistent with what you project outside. And I think that there's definitely something in that act it till you feel it. And when I mentor people, or when I go and talk to our apprentices that we have internally, I always say that to them, because you've got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I often say that to people as well who I mentor, that if you're not feeling uncomfortable in a work situation, you're probably not pushing yourself very hard. So you've got to get used to those feelings of, oh, this feels a bit scary, or I'm not quite loving this, or I really don't want to do that, or I don't want to put myself in that position. But I think the only way to really develop is to do those things.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think stepping out of your comfort zone just allows you to grow and develop as a leader yourself. And I really like the thought of act it till you feel it. Definitely something I'll take away with me. So you're one of the UK's pioneering women in corporate leadership. Your journey has undoubtedly broken barriers and paved the way for greater diversity at the top. As one of the UK's first women in the Big Three, which is a term used to describe UK companies with a female CEO, CFO and chair in a FTSE company, what do you see as a broader impact of this achievement on gender representation in corporate leadership?
Yeah, I mean, when it was announced that I was taking the CFO position, I think that I hadn't even thought about the fact that we were going to be the first FTSE 100 company to have all three positions as women. I just hadn't even entered my sphere of consciousness. And then on the day that it was announced, there was such a fuss about it. It was, it was all over in the press and everything, and which I was surprised at. And you kind of think, oh, it's good in one sense that a fuss has been made of it, but on in the other way of thinking about it, you kind of think, oh, should it be? It's a bit sad that it's such a fuss, really. It should just be, normal, everyday eventuality. So I had sort of mixed feelings about it. I mean, I think that hopefully it inspires others, but also boards, recruiters, people who have the power to put people in these positions to really embrace that diversity, and not just gender diversity, but diversity more widely. And it's something that at Severn Trent we're really passionate about, and we've invested a lot of time in, from getting women into roles that are traditionally female, and I led the group that looked at that, looking at getting women into STEM subjects and operational areas which are traditionally more male dominated. So looking at things like that, but also, making sure that our company and our employees represent the communities we serve. That's so important, particularly because we're a regional company. We serve our communities every day, and we've put so much thinking and working to make sure that we can do that. I think when we talk about diversity, we do have to talk about diversity and inclusion, and more broadly. But my personal view is the more diverse your teams are, whether that's gender, whether it's your experience, whether it's whatever it is, you make better decisions, and that's the reality. So I hope that the more we see of that, and the more broadly we talk about diversity and inclusion, that we'll see that impacting our customers and all of our stakeholders, so that we can be better.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Helen. This conversation has been really enlightening, and I would love to continue it, but we're unfortunately out of time. Thank you so much for joining us today, and it's great to hear your insight and expertise on a range of topics, from building a high-performing team to sharing your advice on building greater diversity at the top table. If you'd like to find out more about Criticaleye's Inspiring Leaders podcast, you can find all episodes streaming now on Podbean or Spotify. And should you like to learn more about how we can accelerate leadership development, please visit our website. Thank you so much, Helen, for your time today. It's really, really appreciated. And I know our global community will really value your insights and expertise. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and take care for now. Bye, Helen.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much for having me.